Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. 3 years ago in 2022, when the topics like this one today that I will be bringing to you or reminding you of have been very, very heavily targeted. As always, nothing new. The truth is always targeted. Nothing has changed for the generations, right? Except now we have a little bit different way of fighting that with the social media. And more of us, I truly believe, and I see it, especially looking at your comments, are waking up. So indeed, we have the Great Awakening. What is this topic that I want to talk about to you today is the how to talk about it, not to trigger the algorithm. Are those places that have been created in Ukraine that have been targeting certain type of population and maybe ultimately the humanity around the world, those places where a lot of experiments have been taking place, and who knows what was there, what underground bases were there, what else was going on, etc. You know, and I was thinking about this, taking my morning walk today to make this video, because there are some numbers that are circulating around. Some people say that there were, or maybe still are, of course, less than 56 of those so-called laboratories. Some people say the number is much higher. Some people say lower. I don't know what is the number. I don't know how many of those laboratories were in existence and how many of them still remain in existence. Doesn't mean they are functioning and operating, but the location is still there and is not under Russia yet. And I was thinking about it because for some time, for a few videos, in few videos that I was recording for you, I've mentioned this, that in my personal opinion, those interventions, let's put this way, from Russia will go on for as long as they have to do the cleanup. And that cleanup is in many regards, in regards to especially those places and the underground bases and the human trafficking, etc., etc. However, I think those are the pivotal points, the pivotal spots, which is what Russia is, in my opinion, mainly focuses about. So besides the military frontline goals, what is the ultimate goal is to get rid of those places. So my question now is, how many of those have been already taken care of by the Russian Federation and how many are still remaining? And today I decided to revisit a little bit some videos from the past that are talking about it. I would like to ask you to be still a little bit careful with using words, because you never know how this be taken by the platform that we are on now, that you are watching me. And thank you to everyone who donates on my PayPal lately, John and Alan. Thank you so much for your donation. Because of you, I really keep on going. It helps me a lot, because you never know, you're taking the risk. You might see the video, you might not see the video, might be monetized, might not be monetized, God only knows. But let's go first to the Wikipedia that always tells you the truth. Why not? So let's look at this way. Whatever tell you is the conspiracy is probably 100% truth most of the time. Let's look at this. When you put Ukraine bioweapons, you see conspiracy theory. So this is a good news, everyone, which means this is confirming what we know about. And it says in March 2022, during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russian officials falsely claimed that public health facilities in Ukraine were secret US-founded biolabs, purportedly with purpose, developing biological weapons, which was debunked as disinformation by multiple media outlets, scientific groups, and international bodies. The claim was amplified by China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Chinese state media and was also promoted by the followers of QAnon. Of course, if you put QAnon, it means already it's all lie, right? That's how they want you to read it. Conspiracy theory, and absolutely supported by other far-right groups in the United States. All right, so let's leave Wikipedia. So that means that those places are absolutely 100% true, but this is from Wikipedia. Now let's go to an interview with Scott Bennett, who already passed away. I don't know exactly the reason. I think officially there was some kind of, he was sick or something, but that was a person who was the whistleblower. I believe he used to work for CIA, and he was definitely working counterterrorism group. I think that was the group in CIA. And he was a whistleblower, and he was telling the truth about not just what was taking place in Ukraine, what Russia was doing, but also about the level of corruption in Obama, Clinton, and Biden's administrations. So I want you to take a listen to a very short part of the interview that he has given on the Russian channel. Let me mute myself and let's go there for a moment.
And broadcasting. Let's never forget the West in 2007 and 8 planted biochemical labs in Ukraine and overthrew the president of Yanukovych because they wanted to remove those laboratories. The Americans under Joe Biden and Barack Obama not only used Ukraine as a money laundering, racketeering criminal enterprise, but they were creating Slavic-based DNA weapons in biochemical labs. They even were experimenting with the COVID-19 animal to human transmission research and were preparing to use Ukraine as a NATO army against Russia.
So before we continue, don't you think that Fauci was part of it? And don't you think this is one of the reasons, and I was coming across this information for quite some time, that Russia wants Fauci to be brought to tribunals, right? And judged for the crimes against humanity. So let's continue.
Russia had to step in to protect its people and its culture, and it did exactly the right thing. So the West's propaganda about Ukraine and the war are pure lies. And people like myself, Senator Dick Black, Scott Ritter, Colonel Douglas McGregor, we all know this. And in our broadcasts, we are always sharing the truth that Russia is really the moral victor in this, and it has been the United States in its biochemical laboratories that has committed crimes against humanity. And
so he just said about it. This was on Soloviev channel. But let me refresh this video, guys, a little bit, because I feel like it's something is slowing down. So probably internet. Just give me a moment.
Besnia and his presentations to the United Nations, I think that is only going to become increasingly important and gain ground. But we have to continue to speak the truth in against these lies that are coming out from the West.
FTX, that's incredible. This it's not even money laundering. It's the purest form of highway robbery. When people were incredible, this it's not even money laundering. It's the purest form of highway robbery. When people were just, stripped off their funds like with no sign. They disappeared. They vanished into the thin air. 1 minute you see your money, then you have a little smile mojo saying that bye-bye money. And that's the guy who was planning to be one of the major sponsors for Biden's election. $1 billion. Even Soros felt jealous.
Mhm. Well, it has been a criminal racket by the Democrats for a long time. In fact, that was the book I wrote was Shell Game, and this book detailed when I was a military officer how the Obama, Biden, and Hillary Clinton regime were using Swiss banks out of Union Bank of Switzerland to fund and use in ISIS, Al Qaeda, Al Nusra operations in Syria and in Libya. And this report, Shell Game, showed 19,000 bank accounts and hundreds of millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other Middle Eastern Wahhabi nations being funneled into the Obama administration to use their regime change operations, regime change in Syria and in Ukraine. So they've done this before, but FTX is a fake cryptocurrency scam. The Democrats were sending money into Ukraine. Ukraine's Ministry of Finance was then taking that money and putting it back into FTX, and then they were laundering it back to Democrats. So the Republicans, now that they've come into Congress, I anticipate they are going to research, have hearings, and expose this, arrest people, and you could have the impeachment of Joe Biden for this and many other things. But I think the Republicans are also going to slam the door shut on Zelensky and his Nazi psychopaths, because no Republican and no American wants to continue to give money for this genocide and this lunatic that no one likes or has any faith in. And it is a crime against the American people that we gave any support to this madman Zelensky.
Okay, so you heard from Scott Bennett. Apologies for the quality of this video. I had no influence over this whatsoever. However, I want to go a little bit deeper into those laboratories. So here is another interview. This is from RT. Let's take a listen into details. And then we go into Zelensky and current situation in Ukraine.
Has accused Ukraine of allegedly developing a biological weapons program assisted by the US. A spokesman claimed Russian forces had apparently discovered documents concerning the urgent destruction of all traces of the project.
During the special military operation, we discovered evidence of the Kiev regime's urgent destruction of traces of a military biological program implemented in Ukraine and funded by the U.S. Department of Defense. We have received documentation from employees of Ukrainian biological laboratories concerning the urgent destruction on February 24th of highly dangerous pathogens of plague, anthrax, tularemia, cholera, and other deadly diseases on February 24th.
Well, we've been hearing from the spokesperson for the Russian Ministry of Defense saying that while they were conducting their operations in Ukraine, they came across evidence that proves that there was a biological program being conducted in Ukraine with the assistance of the American Department of Defense. Now, among the evidence they found is a whole cache of documents that they're currently reviewing and they are analyzing and will release in the nearest future. But what we understand amongst those documents is confirmation that these Ukrainian biochemical laboratories that were close to Russian territory were involved in this biological program. And apparently we're talking here about pathogens of plague, anthrax, tularemia, cholera, and other deadly diseases. At the same time, there seems to have been a major panic when the Russian operation started in Ukraine, because there are documents that are dated February the 24th that call for the immediate destruction of any kind of stockpiles or any kind of evidence that pinpoints and shows that this was happening. Now, we know that obviously when the Russian military operation started, there would have been panic in the Pentagon to try and hide any kind of evidence. And one of the documents that has already been released by the Russian Ministry of Defense comes from the Ukrainian Health Ministry, and it explicitly calls on all kinds of biological laboratories in Ukraine to immediately get rid of any kind of evidence that they have. So this is the document. And before we take a look at it, let me mention that the United States has so far not given any kind of response.
The Health Ministry of Ukraine, due to the martial law that was implemented on February 24, 2022, according to the President's decree, requests to ensure the emergency destruction of biological pathogenic agents that are used to provide control systems for laboratory research.
Well, it's in blatant violation of international law, and more specifically, it is in violation of Article 1 of the UN Convention on the Prohibition of Biological and Toxic Weapons. Now, already back after the First World War, there was signed into law the banning of these kind of weapons, because the First World War did show just how deadly they can be. And this was then reinforced with further bannings in 1972 and 1993. And what those specifically prohibited was the transfer, the manufacturing, and the development and stockpiling of such weapons. What we do know, of course, is that diseases caused by these type of weapons are deadly, and they are not limited to national borders. So you're talking about here something that has an impact on the international community. So certainly it would be a situation where both Washington and Kiev would be in violation of international law.
And on this, British politician and broadcaster George Galloway believes if the bioweapons
So just as a reminder, going back again to my thoughts, and I would like to know yours. Don't you think that one of the crucial things they have to agree when they are signing any peace deal has to be non-existence of those kind of places? Isn't it obvious? I think it is obvious. So now the question remains, are they going to agree and then just try to break it again? But maybe not, because it looks like US is no longer, Trump administration, as I said, fighting the same evil with Putin. They are no longer participating in this. They are not continuing what Clinton, Obama, or Biden were doing. And why I'm saying this is because you see what's going on. You see the meeting between Trump and Putin, and you see this is ultimately what is taking place, is the fight for United States and the fight for Russia at this moment. And I came across this article today, everyone, on TASS, which just confirms what I see myself, and not just me. US bans providing allies with intelligence on negotiations on Russia. Ukraine TV. So let's read this. What is this about? Washington, August 22nd, and that is today. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has prohibited the US intelligence community to give the Five Eyes Alliance any information on negotiations with Moscow and Kiev on the settlement of the conflict of Ukraine. CBS reported. I read it as a good news. Let's continue. The document dated July 20th says that intelligence information cannot be provided to citizens of other states if it has not been published before. The ban does not apply for the information that is not directly related to the negotiations and received through diplomatic channels, as well as to the information given to Kiev to facilitate military operations. The reason for the ban is not provided. Besides the United States, the alliance includes Australia, Great Britain, Canada, and New Zealand. So those are the countries that US is not going to provide the intelligence on negotiations with Russia, which I read as a very good thing. Now let's go to Ukraine for a moment. Two videos from Ukraine, because the kidnapping of people to be still sacrificed continues. Sorry guys, wrong video.
This
Б'є машину нам, ЦКшник.
this is a Ukrainian father being chased by the army. They're dragging him off to war.
Кричи, доця.
I did a video on this
Вискакує з машини, куди поїхали.
last year. Going, there's loads of videos like this online. They'll drag fathers if they see you on the street. They'll pick them up, throw them in this car, and send them to the front line. And you can see them chasing his father here. He's with his family. This is Ukraine.
Номер машини читай.
It's come out today.
1808.
Що таке?
Wait.
П'яний, що ти робиш? Що ти робиш? Вадим! Вадим, они пьяные! Они пьяные! Пьяные! Пьяные, алкаши!
This
Диви, що робить, б'є!
Б'є машину нам, ЦКшник.
this
Did you see it? He literally broke the window from the father's side. And those girls were praying 3 times, Orthodox Christian. Insane, absolutely insane. Next video from today. Well, it's not from today, but today it was posted. Actually, you don't need the sound from this video, so let me just play it and I will be talking about it. So those people saved this man, a bit overweight, let's say, from being kidnapped to fight. Look. Because ultimately that's what it is. It's like if there is enough people around who can oppose those kidnappers, that's how you save. That's how you save people. Insane, absolutely insanity. So guys, I would like to know your thoughts about it as far as the laboratories, how much more Russia needs to do the cleanup, how much more time Russia needs. And maybe that's why they are speeding up the process now, intensifying the cleanup process, I would say this way. And it's really, I would really like to know how far those spots went. So the borderline, because of course, I don't think this was an entire country. Well, maybe it was, but I think they were placed in definitely that region, Donbas region, where was the Russian-speaking population. So because they were they wanted to be as close to the Russian border as possible. This is just my way of thinking. That's easier to implement those bioweapons, right? Don't you think? So let's finish this on a little bit funny note, because the topic is not nice, and this is how the demons are trying to kill humanity, and they won't succeed in it. That I am absolutely certain, because at the end, God wins. And as we are, most of us, we come from God, we're part of God. We are God's children, so we should not fear anything. Let's finish this video with something more light and humorous. A quick summary. Where are we now as far as what countries love each other and what countries are out of the picture? So I think that's what's up, everyone. You know, the first checkpoint was JD Vance. If Zelensky says enough, thank you so much, thank you so much. And how many times Zelensky said thank you so much in the last meeting in the Oval Office? And I think, of course, this is not official, but I came across those information that they were trying to keep Zelensky as far as from JD Vance as possible, which of course, you know, makes sense. And then we had a second checkpoint, some kind of tailor from the White House who was checking his outfit. And some of you pointed out that this was not a suit. Of course, it was not a suit. It was a kind of blazer jacket, not really a suit that he was wearing. But, you know, better than what he used to wear before, right? So that's all I have for you today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what do you think. And I would appreciate if you try your best to kind of go around certain words because, you know, this platform is very, very sensitive. Still, we see if they are allowing this kind of information to be put out now, 3 years later, when everyone really knows what's going on, or majority of us. Thank you so much for hitting thumbs up, like Trump and Putin, and for subscribing to my channel and leaving comments down below. And again, thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon, joining my Patreon to support this channel, locals as well, or donating on PayPal. And that's all for today. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. And as always, all the links will be provided to you down below in the description box. Bye, everyone.